plan.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order for Tuesday, October 15th. We have a number of items on our agenda. I think some of you didn't get your packages.
Until about 10 minutes ago.
Right, so therefore, I'm going to say let's skip the minutes, and we'll go over those at our next meeting, because I haven't had a chance to really absorb them in detail. Okay, is that okay with the members?
Yes.
Okay, all right, next item on our agenda is quarterly discussions. Mary Ann, why don't you take us through yours first?
Okay. It's similar to what you saw last year. The first page is the adopted budget for 2014. And the next page is the general fund revenues, property taxes, and I should have changed that to 14, folks, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about those columns.
It's adopted budget 14, but everything else is correct.
All right, wait a minute, hold on. The middle column is 13 and the right column is 14?
The adopted budget column should say fiscal year 2014. I'm sorry,
14.
that's my mistake.
The far right column should say 9/30/12.
Yeah, it should say 9/30/12 too.
Yeah.
You're right. I was copying and pasting here.
Yeah, you gotta flip it over. I don't like the way it's typed, or the way it's stapled.
Right.
So you gotta flip it over.
Okay. So the general fund budget, we just put the whole dollar amount we anticipate to collect. The property taxes, interest and liens are coming in good. Licenses and permits are up over the prior year.
167,839 versus 126,215.
It's building permits.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we're all on the same columns here.
And the fines and forfeitures is up because we collected a fine for the planning department. The intergovernmental revenues, we're not seeing much coming in right now. It's not the first.
So that's the state being slow in some payments?
Well, we get payments like October, April, so we're not seeing payments at this point. Charge for goods and payment in lieu of taxes, we're seeing some money come in. We got a payment from Westminster, that's what's bringing that one up.
That's what we normally get, right?
Our normal payment, correct. We're slightly higher in goods and services by about $10,000 over the previous year. We're slightly above interest income from last year. The town-owned property we've collected, that includes the Board of Ed. We are getting assessments, some are being paid early. And then the other revenue is insurance refunds coming through. The sewer use fund is it's pretty much on target. It's a little bit lower on the assessments this year than the prior year.
What causes that?
Just
Those are the payments, the fees?
That's your sewer use fee, yes. Okay, and then,
But they should also be getting some from that new project up on West Street too, as
Yes.
those start being filled in, right?
correct, we'll start
So they
receiving
start being
payments.
leased and bought, okay.
The,
Okay, we're on to the next page, Marion?
yeah, we're on to the residential rental properties again, that's the wrong number, so we'll just change it. We're doing slightly lower, but we are collecting, we're just a little bit under, but the agency we did get the money.
No,
No?
we're in arrears on a couple of.
Yeah, okay, so we are in arrears, so that's why we're down this year.
You're on the residential rental properties?
Yep.
Is that where you are? Okay.
You're talking about the $2,800 figure versus the $4,800 figure?
Yep,
Okay.
but we will collect, because they did.
Well, the Amosino farmhouse, the tenant moved out.
Yeah,
It's currently empty.
Okay.
One of them, there's two
There's two up there.
Do they owe us back
One-
rent? Do they owe us back rent, or?
no.
No, they were the good ones. And they relocated to another state, and the property right now, to the best of my knowledge, is empty.
Yeah. And then the Simsbury Farms is slightly lower. That's gonna be, I've been discussing that with Jerry on his revenues coming in the door. They're lower
But
this
the
year.
big piece of that is the golf.
The golf course revenues were $350,000, and they're reduced this year by, and the $19,000.
So weather dependent.
Yeah, it is very weather dependent. the Apple Barn rent is lower than last year, and the numbers are. Okay, let's go to the expenditure side of the house. And this one is correct. You'll see general government, they're on par from last year. The planning development, they lost an employee in the planning department, so they're lower this year. They came in under. These numbers that are popping through, okay. The finance department, financial services is up over the prior year. That's due to increases in salaries and some expenses that we had additional. The police department is slightly higher this year, public safety. Again, that includes, we've been making payments. We've settled union contracts in the first quarter with the police and public works, so you're gonna notice that those numbers are higher, the first quarter. Public works, even though it's showing a decrease, it's in the facilities and programs over the prior year. We're saving money there, but you're seeing changes in dollar amounts were lower. And it is in the labor and equipment. Social services is on target.
Marianne, can I just stop you for 1 second? On the landfill, that's down 46,950. That's going to be a continuing trend there?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it's gone down.
Does that go to zero at some point soon?
I don't know, does that go to zero at some point?
The landfill is, we actually just got a payment from the state that was owed to the town. It goes back to like 2003. It's regarding the landfill closure. This will be here until the landfill is until it's closed. And it's the transfer station. That's what landfill services is now.
We're looking at the expenses here, so.
Yes, the expense will go down. It's for monitoring and for the transfer station. That's what's over there now. And any upgrades that they do over to the transfer station.
Okay.
Department of Health is up because they had to hire help. Social services on par from last year. Recreation,
Health's just one line item on
yeah,
that?
that's 58,820.
Okay.
But health and social services are, it's a total number of 152,028.
Okay.
If you're seeing different numbers underneath, those numbers are the total for that department, total for the services.
Yeah, no, I see it.
We are seeing lower numbers in parks and open space, and the tree service and the electricity for the Little League fields, those numbers came out of there from the prior year. We remember last year we set up an account for Little League and the outside sports. They pay the maintenance now. The town used to, and then seek reimbursement, but this year they changed that to reflect it, and there was raises included in that.
So that comes out of almost like a user fee?
It is a user fee that they charge.
Special road.
So is that the same across the board now, then for all town-owned parks essentially?
No, it's, I think it's the Little
Just the
League.
fields.
Just the fields.
The fields, it's the user fees that they charge. You set up a special revenue fund where the user fees are going into that fund, and then
They pay the bills.
expenses for maintenance of the fields.
Is
Yeah.
that the same for all the other clubs, though, to the Simsbury Soccer Club, for example?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I believe they are. They all come up because they collect a fee at the beginning of the year. So they're collecting this fee. And what the town used to do was bill them, and then we'd have to wait for like 15 checks to come in. This way, they pay up front, and then the town just pays directly.
So it's a special revenue fund then for all
It's for
clubs,
fields.
not just Little League, but for all fields?
All
Right, it's all
public
field, all public fields.
Use of the public fields.
Yeah. Although the Little League's different primarily because of the lights.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's also more expenses there because of the lights.
The Lake Field, that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
And I actually talked to Becky today regarding another one of those ones that the town picks up the bills for electric during certain months. The library, savings on, I can see the savings in the buildings and grounds, but that's because it's gotta be the electric. It's a new library director, and we may not have had all the bills turned in.
Okay.
Employee benefits.
Is she doing something different?
No, she's just, she's learning the ropes. But the numbers they're on par from the prior year. Just the $60,000 is the difference, is what I'm
Building and
saying.
grounds, you're thinking maybe some of the bills haven't been turned in yet?
Well, the 60,000, it couldn't even be the maintenance on that air conditioning unit that was failing. It might have been failing all last year too, and they might have been paying the bills on it. The Social Security is up. Again, we had the raises that came through. The general liability is slightly higher, and they also include the encumbrances for general liability. Employee group insurance is 2 months. Unemployment, no one's been.
What's driving that on the employee group insurance, the reduction? Is that just timing issue?
It's a timing. It's timing.
So there's not like there's gonna be big savings?
Oh, no, there's no big savings. We actually cut that this year. So there is no big savings in that. I think we paid the August in October, I know we did, so. The pensions were paid out, and they did increase because of the reduction.
It's actually missing 2 months there.
Yeah.
Group insurance, because August and September were paid in until October,
Yeah, they're paid
so it's
still.
not reflected in there.
All right, thanks, Deb.
The, all we had to pay was interest on principal, the first, in July. And then, we'll let Burke talk about the Board of Ed, but there was, we think it's,
So just back up, okay, so the total outstanding debt is $6,284,000 for the
Yes.
year, okay.
for this year.
That's the principal and interest payments for that debt service.
For
Okay.
for this year, yes. The, so we've spent 14,674,000 as of September 30th.
Okay,
The sewer plant is on target from last year. Again, we had raises. Residential properties, we've had to, more maintenance we've had to pay out. And recreation programs are lower than last year. And I'm seeing it's in the facilities. Again, it could be the tree program and things like that.
so Simsbury Farms special revenue, so the revenues are down, but the expenses are down as well
Right now, correct.
for right now.
They were anticipating too, weren't they?
What?
Weren't they anticipating significant savings associated with the upgrade and election?
Yes, there was some savings.
Yeah.
And then, on the last page is the capital non-recurring, what we spent to date on that. The Board of Ed bought school buses in 14, that's what that number is, for 304,000. And, I think it's part of the, I don't know what there were other things that came through for the Board of Ed. Other than that, the 169, we paid some bills.
Okay, good.
That's it.
All right. Any further questions for Mary Ann? The one thing I'd suggest moving forward when we have these kind of worksheets is to try to just, down at the bottom, put in the footnotes, the date and the page numbers. You know, it's just an easy thing to add from Excel, where you have the date of the report and the page numbers. Okay. Burke, you want to take us through the...
Yeah,
the
I
Board of
handed
Ed?
out, in your, if you look at the one that was on your desk this evening, I had put it in right behind town for everybody sees that.
Yeah, we got it right here.
Great. Okay,
This is the one.
we are,
No, I'm sorry, wait a minute, hold on a second, Burke. It was on the desk.
so it should be in the packet that was on, if you brought the one that was in the mail, and if you refer to the one that was in the mail,
Gotcha.
you'll see it in that position right behind the town.
together?
Starting with the revenue piece, our overall grant revenues are still looking basically on target from where we predicted last year. So we're looking at about $3.2 million was our estimate, and we're very, very close to that. The major grants, are about $970,000 for the IDEA federal grant for special education. We did get a final award for that, and it's down approximately $65,000. We've been waiting about the last year or so for what was going to be the possible sequestration impact.
So that's what it's the result of?
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, yes, them just having a smaller amount approved for us for this newest 2-year cycle. And then we have a good amount of that offset we anticipate receiving for both our Open Choice Chef grant as well as our Title I and Title II federal grants. We expect to be receiving more there.
Why would they be increased? Just because they changed the formula, or?
Title I
students?
is tied to your free and reduced lunch
No, okay.
percentages, and those fluctuate each year. And then in terms of our next largest overall grant is the Open Choice grant that's tied to the number of students. The grant that is about $910,000. We have basically the same amount that we estimated as of 10/1. We have 139 students. We estimated 140, so we're tracking well there. But we'll be waiting for final grant awards on several grants, which is always the case at this time of year in the first quarter. We also will be waiting to hear about some of those grants that have the caps, such as transportation, health services, excess costs, things of that nature, which come later in the fiscal year. And we'll be keeping an eye out for whatever the federal impacts are now going forward. I've not heard anything, but
They're
the
just
next round.
Let's see, today's the 15th, so they have 2 more days probably.
2 more days.
Yeah, 2 more days.
Is it?
So in terms of where we anticipate ending up, we do anticipate a modest surplus at this point in time. A couple things to highlight is just we showed that under the modular classrooms line item, which has been historically a very small line item, we plan to expend for the demolition costs, so that's showing a projected decrease if we were deficit, and then the electricity savings we estimate will more than offset that in terms of the meters that have been shut off for a good portion of this fiscal year. That work was finished over the summer, so not quite a whole year's cycle.
Have you started on the boilers at Squatter?
We have not. That was planned to be done in this coming spring. We need to get the design work finalized, and that's something Rich and Steve Twitchell and I are looking forward to getting started on.
So Burke, on the 43 and the 36, is it fair to net those and say that the modulars have saved us the $7,000?
Well, really, you've got the initial line item there, which was, I believe, roughly $9,000 from memory. So it's not going to be quite a net positive at this point. But it was anticipated to be basically a wash. And we still think that will be the case.
How many of these things, the modulars, will we have when all of this work is completed? Are they all gone?
All the ones at Tooten Hills were removed this summer, and the one small white trailer at Latimer was removed this summer. That was phase 1. We'll be revisiting our 3-year plan for modulars. We still have modulars at Central and at Latimer Lane that we'd be revisiting. So that's what the facilities and enrollment task force will be looking at again. We promise to do that each year once we look at our 10-1 data and our revised NASDAQ numbers, which we'll be getting very soon.
Are any of them worth anything on a resale market?
We tried with the Tooten Hills, and we really weren't successful because they were all attached, and it would be very difficult to kind of move them out of there. They were a very large footprint, but we did try, went out to bid, and didn't get any takers on that.
There's not a big market for 40-year-old modular classrooms.
But in each
Well,
case,
sounds happy,
we'll
though.
give it a try, and
It's
It's a good question, though.
have no idea whether they're worth anything or not.
Sue said Ladner and Squadron.
Central are the two. Yeah, Squadron does not have any modulars. Centrals are the newest ones, and so we have we have to look at the program space and see what we can do again for next year.
I'm assuming that the reduction in the school population is contributing to obviously not needing as many of these.
Right. That was part of the review, that essentially, if you looked at all of our modular spaces throughout the district, you had, almost a school if you added, a small K-6 school if you added them all together.
Well, the enrollment's down, what, 4%?
Almost 4%.
And what percent of those classrooms of total?
I'm sorry?
What percent of those classrooms of total classrooms?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Well, if you
what mean.
have 20 classrooms at a school and you took one out, you
Yeah.
just remove a certain percent.
Mhm.
So the ones you took out, how many percentage of your total classrooms available did you just?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I would estimate it was probably less than 10%. The programs that were housed there were preschool, so it's not really part of our regular K-6 classrooms. And then also it was the Ready, Set, Go program, so we moved those to Squadron Line. It's a little bit hard to do apples to apples with some of those spaces. But I will get that information.
The one thing I learned on the facilities task force is a classroom is not a classroom. They're not all fungible, and some of that modular space was used for very unique purposes.
Okay.
Is it fair to say
On
that, is it fair to say that the modular classrooms we're removing are high maintenance, high cost for utilities and so forth?
Yeah, they were reasonably high cost because of the electricity that was the main source for those, and then looking at the overall maintenance costs. I mean, the exterior, the T111 exterior, which had been renovated, was already starting to rot, and there was concerns about the foundations and so not the foundation, but what was underneath those that they were sitting on, that they were going to need significant work. So those were avoidance of costs basically going forward, as well as the utility costs. And if you get back there at some point in time, it really is amazing what it's done to just open up that school again. I mean, it used to just push the back was right up against the tree line and the fence. Now you can go right around the school, and there's that nice buffer that was originally there, that was intended to be there. So it looks quite a bit different.
Good.
So in terms of page 2, you see the historical staffing that is down this year as was estimated last year during our budget process. And
How did this come out the plan? Is this what you planned?
it's within like 0.2 FTE of what we had planned. Very, very.
And how about the enrollment decrease? How was that compared to plan?
That came out greater. We had estimated a 2.5% decrease, and we came in at 3.8. You show here that we're 10-1, we're at 4,330 students, an enrollment difference of 171. And the Human Resources and the Superintendent's Office have definitely reviewed the estimates and tried to look at trends. There's no clear trend to any sort of magnet schools or private schools. The biggest trend we see this year, and perhaps started a little bit last year, was typically in the summer, the in migration and out migration, we would always get a net increase of people moving in from other districts. even though people are always moving out, there was always a net positive. I believe this year is the first year in recent memory where that was not the case. It was a net negative. So that was really the surprise, because when you look at those historical trends, you always predicted that you'd have a little bit more there. So that's kind of the initial review of that. So we're adjusting, have given those numbers to NESDEC, so when they come in and do their annual projection forward, they'll have that information to adjust.
All I can say is my neighbors are doing all they can to increase the school population, so they're adding kids
Interestingly,
like crazy.
we've seen more at the kindergarten level than we predicted the last 2 years.
What's coming in? What's coming in kindergarten? How many? Over 200?
Let's see. I've got the
Yeah,
detail.
about 400 going out, 200 coming in.
They had a big high school class for graduates.
Yeah.
You had like 400, 450.
Yeah, and the
graduates.
kindergarten's
Big graduate.
relatively low at this
Yeah,
point.
you got 1,500 in high school.
Yeah.
Let's see, 200, looks like 231. Sure.
Came in.
Do you have last year's right there too?
Let's see.
Just curious if full day made a difference.
And I think like I said, the last 2 years it's been a little bit higher than we had. We had 28 more students in kindergarten than projected last year, and we had 19 more this year than we projected. And looking for the class-only data. And on this report, I'm just looking for that total number. Yeah, it's still the smallest class in our system, but based on the enrollment trends, that's what we were seeing, was the births were declining.
I gotta ask you this question because it jumps out.
Yep.
The FTEs are down 7 or 1%. The enrollment's down, rounding 4%. That's a glaring difference.
Well, the year prior, as you may recall, we had some staff positions added. So we had the trend sort of going down, came back up, it's going down again, and we obviously didn't have a crystal ball as to what those reductions were. We're taking a very hard look again at all of the sections this year as we at the class size.
But you'd estimate 2.5, so yeah, so 2.5 to 1.
Yeah, there were some new positions in the budget. Would have been less if we hadn't added the instructional coaches to respond to the Common Core. You may recall there were 4 temporary roles that were new in the budget. They're not permanent positions, but they were. That was a significant part of that. So if you took 4 off of that.
So the positions are grant funded too, aren't they?
No.
Some of this includes total positions, including grants.
Including grant funded
You're
positions.
correct.
But I don't think there was
But we didn't increase
fund
our-
dedicated for that, though. There weren't grant
There's no
funds
grant funding
dedicated
for the-
specifically
for
for
that-
those tutors.
for
That
those-
was all part of the main budget.
The instructional coaches is what they're called. They're actually certified teachers, and there were 4 of them. There are 4 of them that started this year, and it's a several year process of making sure that we can be prepared to respond to the Common Core standards that are hitting everyone. So that's one of those reasons. If you really look from year to year, you've got to identify those unique positions.
I thought the Chef, the O'Neill funding was for the all-day kindergarten program. So I thought some of those positions for the kindergarten teachers were grant monies?
We have utilized and again utilized some of the kindergarten staffing is paid from the
Grants.
Actually we call it the attendance grant, so it's directly tied to it's $6,000 per student, because we have choice students that are equal to 3% of our total student population. The Chef money is a separate grant program. Last year it was about $190,000, roughly $194,000. Next year, we believe it may go up about 15. We're hopeful. We're waiting to hear the results of that.
And class size too, it needs to be factored in. So I guess it's not a precise. I mean, enrollment's down, but it really depends on where the enrollment decreases hit, I'm assuming, correct? So
Right, it's scattered, it's
Certain
scattered throughout the buildings, and that's exactly the case. We have the class size report, and again, that'll be, the Board of Ed just reviewed that at its last meeting, and I know as we go through the budget process, that'll be a topic of conversation again, because you have these situations where, in many cases, you still have 3 sections, say at the K-6 level in a particular grade, and you may have 18 or 19 students in each of those grades. If you were to collapse it and have just 2 sections, you're over the class size guidelines. So those are going to be the tough conversations that we'll continue to have. There are some years where you're able to, get to that point where you can collapse more sections than other years.
My guess is that the enrollment will continue to decrease, but at some point it's going to start plateauing out. Do you, how far out do you try to do projections on that kind of stuff? And as a sort of a corollary question, am I correct that it's like once every 5 years you engage a consultant to do a really in-depth
We did that last year.
study?
We did a very in-depth study last year for the Facilities and Enrollment Task Force, and that was a 10-year lookout. And what was different about it was it really included more of the economic review of where things may be headed, not just looking only at births and things of that nature. Every year NESDEC does a look forward for us, and they'll be doing that again this year, but it's not as extensive. My recollection from that report is it was supposed to be turning around roughly in about 9 years, is when they would expect it. One of the issues, of course, is the birth rate. You can project out 5 years because those students are already born of what's coming. It's always going to be a much more risky proposition to estimate what the birth rate is going to be going forward.
Does the Board of Ed start trying to project some base level of enrollment that the school system will have? I mean, I thought that at some point in the past, we thought that we were going to start seeing it was going to go down, keep going down, and then at some point we could expect it to start increasing again. And I don't know whether do you try to project that, or is it just a wasted exercise?
I mean, that's really, I think, what that NESDEC review last year was trying to do. And again, nobody's going to be able to guarantee it.
Right, and that's part of the facility study as well,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Well, that's where I was
that was
leading
where
to,
those-
is eventually you get down to bricks and mortar.
Right.
How much do you need?
Right.
More modular classrooms. I hope I never see it.
What school will be the new town hall?
There's a decline coming
Old
for,
school on wheels, right?
Right.
there's a decline coming for quite a while before that projected.
Are we going down to about 3,300? Probably. I mean, right now we average in 382 in the high school, and what you said, kindergarten's
We've
coming
gone
in?
down about 500 students, a little over 500 students in the last 5 years. And I believe that, that similar.
Right, so
similar
at some
trend.
point,
You're going down about 2% a year.
That gets you around 37, 36, 37.
Well, what do you have coming in, what, 250?
231 is the,
Yeah.
is the,
So 250, if we average 250, that'd be 3,200 students, so we're below the average, and what's happening is 382 are going out, and less than 250 are coming in, so we're just gonna go down 2% a year till we get down to the mid-threes. Unless,
yeah, probably somewhere in the mid-threes, and then that's where that trend, again, will we see the
depends upon when those
migration
houses
pick up,
start
will you see
turning
those
over.
houses turn over, and that was really a lot of the crux of what that
is that
review
group,
was.
you're on as far as the facilities, are they looking at what we're gonna do, what a recommendation could be?
Every year we're going to look at for the next 2 years is that, to move forward with this modular removal plan. But I'm sure that it's going to be a regular conversation to adjust and see how those predictions have fared and what our next.
So I want to ask you during this next budget cycle, is administrative wise, I mean, you go in steps, you don't just go proportionally, so there's got to be steps to taking things down, because if we're going to long-term start to remove 30% of the population. Simple question is, why isn't 30% of admin and everything else dropping with it? So there's got to be a logical explanation as to why we need what we need,
Right.
from facilities to administrative. So I would assume this budget cycle, you're going to get a lot of questions in that area, so.
So you're looking, Peter, like for an explanation
Yeah.
of mandates and
Right.
what have you?
And, okay, I mean, we've had a number of years declining enrollment. How's that factored in with the budget? What are other towns doing with respect to declining enrollment? How do we compare to those towns with their declining enrollment? How are they handling it? Are we on par with them? Are we not reducing it as much? Are we reducing it more? So those are going to be issues that we're going to have to face as we go through the budget season. So, and I've shared some of that with Matt Curtis, the superintendent, as well. So he's not going to be surprised with some of those questions as we get into the budget cycle. So.
Well, and there's significant impact of the programmatic changes that are made, really on facilities in particular.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all part of understanding how we're using the space.
And Common Core as well. If the federal government's not going to back off on that mandates a lot more than it has in the past. So it all.
Connecticut education reform, we're still very much in the midst of responding to that with the teacher evaluation. I know you'll hear about it again from our budget presentations this year, but it really is about the contact time with supervisors, being able to have conversations with teaching staff and talking about their practice. And in order to meet those mandated times, it's an incredible amount of face-to-face time, which is a good thing. But that, in answer to your question or comment, Peter, about the admin numbers, if anything, the question right now is how do we do what we do with our existing number of supervisors? So that's, it goes contrary to the common sense that you would think, but you got to look at the program and mandates.
If I recall, last year during budget season, you provided a breakout of per pupil expenditures, and again, from memory, if it's serving me correctly, I want to say Simsbury was in the bottom quartile of increases over a certain year period for increases in per pupil expenditures. So, I mean, I guess if my memory is correct, I mean, maybe fleshing that out will be helpful too, to explain, as Paul pointed out, how does this fit in with what other districts are doing, and we obviously want to remain competitive with our peer group.
Right. No, we'll definitely do the per pupil data, and the metrics will be updated for comparative purposes. So you'll see that.
Okay. Any further comments for Burke on the quarterly financials? I think that was a good discussion.
He's looking forward to the budget.
I'm sure he is. Okay, next is school security. Burke, you gave us a letter dated October 11th regarding school security. I think this is a carry-on from our discussion last month. Basically, what you were talking about was the supplemental appropriation made by the Board of Finance for school security, stating it's still available. Additional improvements can be completed utilizing these funds, and you're requesting the Board of Finance approve to apply this appropriation to additional building hardening and security measures in the school. You want to just update us a little bit on that, particularly about the exact amount of money that you're looking for? I think I know what that number is, but I want to make sure that we air that.
Okay. I saw that you wanted to have a brief discussion this evening about the capital plan. So just sort of as a segue, it started with that to be determined amount for improved school security measures, because the CIP was wrapping up in February, March, and the security audit was not done until later in the spring, given the timing of Newtown. So there was some anxiety, I know, when the three boards met over at the library about what that number might be. So I was pleased that the outcome of our audit was that we weren't talking about a large number of new substantive projects. We still have the same issues at Henry James and at Squadron Line, where we want to look at the location of the main office, and those have been on the capital schedule for several years each. So just to speak to the 177,000, honestly, I tried to back into that number because that number had been approved previously. There will be ongoing security needs, so I'm not saying that this 177,000 will be the last we ever spend, because there's things such as our digital video recorders and cameras that need to be replaced on an ongoing basis. The breakout of the 177,000 in rough terms, and I'm happy to discuss it in executive session further if you're not comfortable, is approximately 60,000 for security film, and that's at all 7 schools, and that is a clear film that would be able to be attached to all of the entranceways where there's glass doors and ways that you could force your way in, such as happened at Sandy Hook. So that is a very cost-effective means. We've done the square footage estimates. We know what current bid prices are, and we would be prepared to get that carried out. Another area relates to communications with our police department. I've worked very closely with both Nick and the chief and Fred on that. The largest area is really just going to be some added door locks for certain classrooms that were double doors, that were the more expensive ones, where we want to be able to make those lockable from the inside, adding some fob access points where you gain fob entry to our buildings, adding some security cameras, replacing one of our digital video recorders, and things of that nature. So there's really several smaller projects within that, and could I spend some more? Sure, but I feel like we can do it over a period of time.
So what you're saying is these are things that you'd like to do, the 177,000, because of what you were able to do within the budget.
The classroom lock project was
also
done.
From some money from the state that we were eligible for. I think that was.
We did not get that grant. We did not get that.
We did not get that grant. Okay.
But
Okay.
I believe there's
so
another round
what you're
we'll
saying is you
apply
want to take that remaining money and be able to apply it for some of these things
Right.
as we move forward into, as part of this budget year?
Yes.
The 2014? Okay.
Right.
Not wait until next year. You just want to be able to move
These
forward.
are things that we
with it.
feel need to be moved on now. And,
How are you gonna do that? I mean, how are we gonna leave that open then? You wanna leave open that
It is open.
authorization?
It's a
it was a
capital expenditure.
capital.
That's how we did it?
Yeah, we did it as a capital line, a separate budget. We created a separate budget, and if I remember
There was
correctly.
an amount for the town as
So
well.
by you running those expenses through the operating
Yeah, okay.
budgets through transfers, you can leave that open? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's
This
actually
is-
gonna bill us.
This is the capital account that was
This-
essentially authorized earlier
Yeah.
this
School
year.
safety.
for both the school and the town.
177,000.
Plus
authorized
77.6 for the town, and the town's just now getting its bills coming in.
Right.
They're completing their end of the project, so there is
Yeah, but we authorized that for locks.
Right, so that's the
Right.
purpose of me coming back and saying, we have some more locks to do and we have other things, and that's why we're asking you to not to appropriate new monies, but to just say that you're comfortable with that, which now resolves the issue of what's to be determined. You don't need to approve further money.
And what's the amount that's still available?
The 177
They,
has
Total.
they did not spend
has
it.
not been touched. We took it out of the operating as we reported to you throughout, the end of last year.
So you were able to do the locks and some of these other things with other sources?
The classroom locks was
Was what the
$125,000. The estimate was 177. The bid prices came in low, and with our own staff, we were able to do the install at two of the 5 schools that had classroom locks done this summer. So that further cut down that cost.
As far as the priority on these items, how do they rate compared to the locks? Are they the same priority or less a priority or more? Did he prioritize?
I think the security film and some of these other things are very similar priorities. I mean, but some of them are more exterior based. The classroom locks were inside things, whereas these other things focus a little bit more on the outside. So it's hard to say one's more important.
I have no problems with the high priority items, if these are high priority.
I see them all as
I see no problem.
high priority items. I've got,
Where I'm gonna have my problem is when we're talking about moving an office and opening a school and
that's a separate
creating-
conversation, separate conversation.
Maybe we ought to take some of those modules and put it out front, so we don't have to open the school up and we can solve that problem.
I
A lot less
I don't
dollars.
want to hear about modules.
Put it right in front.
Moving across the
If you
street.
gotta move the office in front, put the modules right there.
So Paul, do you need a motion for this, to approve?
Well, and we may.
We're
we
not
may.
authorizing any more money.
Right. I think all you're saying is, okay, we did an authorization before.
Yes.
Okay? It's there. If you're feeling, you just want to know, are we comfortable with you using these for additional security
Additional
measures?
security measures, exactly.
I don't think we really need a motion on that.
Well, we should get an understanding.
You can amend the appropriation.
I'm sorry,
You can
Deb?
amend the appropriation to.
I don't think we need
Do
to.
that.
Well, the original appropriation, I thought, was for locks. I don't know if it included other security
That's what it
measures,
is.
so I think to be clear.
It was very specific?
Was it, that's?
We should amend
So
it.
I would.
Okay, then I think
I
we
don't
do
have
need.
your motion in front of me, I just know that the word packets that we prepared were,
Okay,
it was.
Debbie seems to
specific
recall that it
block
was-
project, and that's why I'm back here, just to make sure there's no misunderstanding, that
Right.
this is, we finished that, and now we're looking to
I
do
would
more.
move
So-
to amend the
Well, wait a minute, hold on.
initial.
Just before I take that, do we know the date of that motion?
That was last year, it was April? February.
Okay, Debbie, you can go get it. All right, don't run. It'll be fine. Yeah, I think once we get it, the date, then we
We can
can,
amend it.
it's quicker to do that.
Just say amend the motion of, and then go on, and then.
Yeah, just get the date from her. Yeah, okay. All right, you want to make a motion then? Irene, you got this?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would move to amend the appropriation of the date, which we will have soon, for the $177,000 that we had authorized for locks to also include the additional security items that are recommended, including security film at all the entranceways, the police department communications, added door locks for classrooms with double doors, and then the other security measures that are appropriately installed at this
Right.
point.
Okay. Comments?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, and Debbie will provide Irene with the exact date of that. Okay, good.
Much appreciated.
Okay, next item on our agenda is,
Bert, do you
Go ahead.
anticipate needing anything else in the current year budget?
No,
Okay.
I do not. I was just trying to point out that going forward, we'll continue to provide, upgrades to security, and
Yeah, but
we're not looking, we're not looking for special
Well, we
projects.
do these right away, so we won't.
We're gonna get moving, get out to bid. I have quotes on everything, but need to put them into action.
okay. That's okay. Debbie, we approved it with just you plugging in the date of that with Irene, okay, when you get it, okay? So if you don't get it till the morning, it's fine too.
All right.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the 2014 calendar of meetings. We need to review these a little bit more closely because of some of the charter changes.
Right.
So we're gonna have to do that. So I just wanna get my calendar out here. I actually printed it off so I didn't have to go through the BlackBerry. Okay, so the January 21st is already in there.
It's set.
Okay, so that's set. We're set on that. The February 18th regular meeting,
I've given you options there to.
yeah, options, because school vacation is actually only 2 days this year. February vacation is the 17th and the 18th.
Right.
Right, in Burke, the 19th, 20th, 21st are school. The 19th is a Wednesday, the 20th is Thursday, or go on to February 25th. I'm okay with any one of those dates, I just didn't know what the members had for optional
Do we
dates.
have the possibility of taking this and coming back to
November.
do it
we
after
that.
we've looked at it?
Or are we out of time to do that?
No, we can do it at the November meeting.
We can do it in November.
Because
I just wanted to, if we want to just go through it quickly and say, are there certain days?
Try not to do a Thursday, because usually if you get activities, people book you on Thursday.
Yeah,
When I work, I have to go to a lot of things on Thursday
on
night.
Thursday nights? Okay.
See, third Tuesday here, I always have a third Wednesday meeting in the evening. I know that, for example, that the February 19th meeting probably will not be
Not
good for
work.
me.
So probably a Tuesday, the 25th might be better. Okay, so that would be a possible, okay?
I'm flexible.
Okay.
Is there any reason we don't want to do it on the 18th? Just be
School vacation.
with school vacation.
You mean the 25th?
On the 18th?
18th. Is there a
School
reason we
vacation.
can't do it on the 18th?
There's none on our end.
I don't think so. I mean, we have a Board of Ed meeting scheduled for the 25th, according to my calendar here, so the 18th might be preferable for, if it's just me.
I mean, I could probably do it.
I mean, do you have kids in the school system?
No.
I mean, I don't know that any of us do, so I'm just,
Okay, all right, so let's say that is a possible,
All right.
or the 25th.
or the
is-
25th.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. March,
These are, by charter, the Board of Ed has to give you
Yep.
their budget by the 15th of March.
Mm-hmm.
And so I added in Wednesday or Thursday as optional dates, that's for the Board of Education and the board to decide what they want to do.
it's okay, the 15th of March,
It's a Saturday.
so we can't do it on a Saturday.
No.
Our regular meeting is on the 18th.
Right, which I didn't put in.
Is there any reason, okay, so this has to be the 15th. So the 15th is a Saturday,
Right.
right? What's the penalty under the charter if we actually, because it's a Saturday, we went to the following
I don't-
Tuesday,
I
the
don't know.
18th?
I don't know. It's just, this is a charter provision. It may be that they have to be delivered on the 18th, on the 15th. Burke would
Okay.
just have to make.
So if we had them in hand by,
Recollection is that it's making sure that it's been
delivered.
delivered.
okay, so if you delivered it to us on the 14th and we discussed it on the 18th, you'd still be covered,
Well, yeah.
in order to try to keep as much of this calendar.
Right,
On
yeah, because I
the
did not put a
dates.
regular meeting into March. I put two specials because you do have, the Board of Selectmen have until the 31st, but then you guys have the public hearing by the 10th. That's the reason why I did not change. And I did not speak with Mary today, but I think the 25th will work, but I didn't know. That's why I put those two options in.
So we could have a meeting on the 18th to get the Board of Ed budget and a meeting on the 25th for the Board of Selectmen budget,
We could.
right? Does that work? Okay, all right, then, if you would check on that, just to make sure we're safe on that, and then in November, we'll talk about that, okay. All right, April, let's move on to April. April 10th, the first public hearing, that's a Thursday?
Yep,
Why did we do it on Thursday?
because it was the 10th, that's all. I just took the 10th, that's the date you have to do it by. You
Actually,
could have it
that's-
on April 8th, the Tuesday, if you wanted.
Okay.
It's just pushing,
Actually, I know I'm going to be out of town on the 8th.
so that,
Is everybody okay with that Thursday? Peter, I know you said sometimes Thursdays are difficult.
Not then.
Okay.
Tax season.
It's not tax season.
Every night's different.
Yeah, everyone's tax season, right?
Every day is tax season.
This is actually, public hearings actually easier.
Right.
and I
Can we
actually,
start these public hearings for us at 7 instead of 7:30 and make sure in this year's calendar, we don't do 7:30? Because that's where we got last year. We had already posted them, I think, Deb, and you said we couldn't change them.
I could
I'd like,
change the
unless the board objects, I'd rather start these things at 7.
I agree. They went late last year.
Yeah.
We had one that was.
I threw in a special meeting also for this board. on
Okay.
April 10th.
They're not really special if you put them on the calendar.
Oh, okay, but-
Special if you schedule them.
Right.
Right.
as the
Yeah,
calendar.
just to have them available in case we want to discuss the budget and move it
So they would really be a
on.
regular meeting, you can schedule as many as you want,
Okay.
as long as they're on this calendar, so.
I put it.
I mean, I'd be happy to start these things at 6:30, but where the public has to
Great to-
get to them, it's a little bit more difficult.
The April
Yeah,
10th,
check
the
your
meeting that I
calendars.
put in afterwards for you guys, after the public hearing, I thought if you wanted to accept your capitals at that point, you could do that.
Okay, regular,
That was, so it could be a
also
regular
accept
meeting.
capital.
So that's what I thought you might want to do.
Okay, so we could do both of those on the 10th.
Yeah.
What capital? Okay,
Capital
all
we'll
right.
talk about in a few minutes.
Okay.
It's the off year, right?
Yeah,
April
this is the
15th
off year, right?
April 15th is a schedule for a regular meeting.
That's
And
school recess, or
It's the
school,
whole week. They're out, it's spring break.
right. And I know I'm gone that week. I don't know what Barb's schedule is for that.
Barbara, do you know when the Final Four is?
It's before then usually.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
You want to move to the 22nd?
Well, I'd rather move it to the 22nd.
It's okay with me.
Okay.
It's Earth Day.
That's your birthday?
Earth Day.
Oh, Earth Day.
It is the Tuesday after Easter. That's okay, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. It's late Easter.
I'm impressed you remembered that. I don't think anybody remembered Earth Day anymore.
That's what it says right here, Earth
Well, you were
Day.
there at the first one, right?
I was there at the first one.
I was in college when the first one happened. My sophomore year.
Remember that?
For the first what?
Earth Day.
1970. Spring, my sophomore year.
You were a freshman in high school, Barb.
About skipping outside.
Our generation was leaders.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and the 29th would have to have the public hearing. That'll be the final public hearing, because under the charter, we have 2 public hearings. We could actually have 3 if we wanted to have a separate
Yeah.
capital, but okay.
Right.
Because I think on that public hearing, now, the first public hearing, is that just operating? Or that's for both?
It's both. It's capital.
Last year, we did both.
Yeah, and you don't have to do capital the second time if you just want to do a regular public hearing for operating on the 29th, because you can approve the capital at any time in this period.
Okay, all right, good, all right.
So we've got
That's why I
meeting,
added,
we've got
on April 10th,
We
I
have
added.
3 in the month of April.
the 10th, the 22nd,
and the 29th.
Okay.
Okay,
So Paul, you were wanting to schedule a meeting after each of these public hearings as well?
right, yeah. And again, start that public hearing at 7 o'clock. Okay, the referendum, that hasn't been set yet, so we'll have a meeting whenever that referendum is.
Is it likely to be the 13th or the 20th?
Right, yes, I counted out the days, that's 14 days. That's the first date you can do it on, and the 20th is the 21st day. That was the reason I did that, because it's from the 29th.
Just one thought, since we're having 2 public hearings, essentially covering similar materials, just updated for more recent knowledge, maybe starting one of them at 6 might be all right, and starting another at 7, because that'll give different people an opportunity to come, because there may be people that would come earlier and not want to come later.
Retirees, others, it's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we start the second one at 6 o'clock? That one on the 29th. Okay.
The April 10th one would be at 7.
Yep. And then for the rest of the schedule, once you get into June,
We just go to our
we just go to our regular schedule.
Right.
Okay, great. Okay,
And we're going to finalize this next month. We're
yes,
not
we'll
actually
finalize
voting
it
yet.
next month. Which our meeting next month is, what day, what's the calendar date on that?
November 18th or 19th?
19th.
19th.
Okay.
For the public hearing, right?
Right, that's,
Yeah, that was the next thing to do. For the last number of years, we've had a public hearing,
Right, last year we did a
public audience.
last year.
It's really a special meeting, but we do it as an agenda item so that I can go through and talk about what the budget looks like for the coming year. Okay, all right, we'll keep that.
That's what this was about, that's all I was
Right,
asking.
we'll keep that the
We'll put a
same.
public audience in.
Is that at
during
6?
the meeting.
6
Starts at
o'clock.
6.
Yeah, we'll start still at 6. Okay, next item on our agenda is the second quarter retirement subcommittee. In your package, there should have been the book that was the report from the Retirement Plans Subcommittee. The name of it is now the Retirement Plans Subcommittee. We had Chris Cashman come in and with one of his new associates, and we talked about the pension results on the monthly, quarterly, and year-to-date basis, along with the OPEB results. Nick was there as well. If you go to page 5, I think page 5 was really the crux of it is, what happened in the month, what happened in the quarter, what happened in the year. For the town, the police, and the Board of Education, the 1-month results were not good. They were a negative 1 point, on average, they were all 1.8. But the month was not a good month anyway. August hadn't been a good month. And the quarter was a little bit better. That was in the positive. And the year-to-date wasn't bad. Stock market had done fairly well, and that was a 5.3%. The one thing to note on that, and I'm trying to think of the actual page number, was the OPEB. OPEB results are on page 7. Yep, 7 and 8. OPEB, and we're going to have to look at this as we move into the next budget cycle. We've been very conservative in our OPEB results. Year-to-date was 2.4% for OPEB, 1.2 for the quarter, and a negative 2.1 for the month, again reflecting also some concerns in the bond market. I think that's really where most of the losses were, Nick, right? Was in the bond market.
Actually, if you look down through this, on both sides. The
real estate,
the
we sold some.
fixed income, the emerging markets, the real estate, the international side of things didn't do as well as the domestic equities, and that's sort of reflected in the year-to-date numbers.
Right. So I think now that we're starting to get a good-sized balance into the OPEB, we want to look at, where we're investing that. And I think we had asked, I can't remember the new gentleman's name who was there. Tyler, to look into some alternative. Do we reflect the same portfolio as we have for the regular pension, or do we make it just tweaks?
So we have statutorily, we can only invest a certain percent different, I think, can't we? They have to keep that in mind.
In the OPEB.
I think they have a little shorter term horizon than the pension.
My answer to your question would be is since the liabilities of the two different funds are different, the investments ought to be different.
Right. Right.
I mean, logically.
But the OPEB, when we originally set that up, was, I think, extremely conservative.
I think they're going to keep their eye on statutorily. There's statutory language as to how much you can invest in equities. In that it's different than pension. So because I know when we set it up, that was there, so we should make sure they're aware of that.
Right. Then I think Tyler was their expert on OPEB.
Okay.
Isn't that what he was there for?
No, he was there for the 401A plan.
Sorry, he was there for the defined contribution plan. I'm
plans,
sorry.
yeah. So he's actually, it's Chris Cashman.
It's Chris,
who handles
okay.
the OPEB plans, and we did make some adjustments that we've got quite a bit of money to do. You are up there on the numbers for putting it into the placement into OPEB.
Right.
So we do have the increases. The transfers went through at the end of September for the prior, the medical insurance transfers and the.
How much do we have in OPEB? This shows 6 million, but we have more?
There's more. We added another 848,000, that number.
Close to 7 million.
We're over 7 now with the OPEB contribution for this year.
That's a good thing we started that.
All right.
probably,
Still probably more than the state of Connecticut.
I think it was longer than that.
Oh, we're better than the state of Connecticut. We're better than most communities.
We have more in our OPEB fund than the state of Connecticut has,
Oh, than most communities.
which the state of Connecticut has,
Well, like than
Upkus.
most communities, too.
so, and other communities.
Yes.
So,
You're doing very well.
Did you see Barron's this week?
Barron's
Yeah.
this week,
Connecticut's rated.
Connecticut was rated 49th.
No, we were rated
Or
50th of the states. We had Puerto Rico behind us.
Yeah, thank God for Puerto Rico. Right. So, it is sad.
And the District of Columbia, come on, we got two.
Connecticut used to have economic indicators that were all, we were number 1, now we're number 50. But I don't want to get into that.
So I'm just looking at this for the first time, and just because
Sure,
the
go ahead,
audience
Bob.
can't see what we're looking at, essentially, it's telling us
What
the
page do you want,
year-to-date,
Barb?
It's on page 5. I
Page
think.
5,
Just
just
on
an
5.
overview. Essentially, it's telling us the year-to-date results for the pension plans are running just above 5%.
That's correct.
Right. And the 1 year is 8.9.
Now, we've reduced our investment assumption to 7%. So based on the since inception, with these numbers since '94, that's 7.6. So we're conservative.
Right.
And that's the blended of all investments, 7.6?
Correct.
Even with the great crash, we're still at 7.6.
Yep. It's come back.
I think it's safe to say, though, we should, based on the 10-year at 6.6, that we need to continue to monitor that very, very closely.
Yeah.
If you were to turn to page 12, again, the point that I made before, I mean, while some of the bigger equity indexes, which is what's shown on this page, are up in the 13-15% range for the U.S. Stock market. As you get down in the middle of the page, you can see the international piece there is at 0. The fixed income is at minus 2.4, and someplace on here, maybe it's on the next page, there's an REI, there was a REIT piece, but the point that Chris Casper made to us was that the markets have been very bifurcated in terms of their results, and everybody sort of looks at, here's about the S&P 500 and the Dow and thinks, great, the stock market's doing really wonderful, but the fixed income markets have been in turmoil.
Oh, yeah.
We spent about, what, an hour and a half with him?
Oh, yeah.
So,
And we had
we had a very good
like
discussion.
We had like 8 or 10 committee members there,
Right.
so it was a good.
We're also looking at the investment, I'm searching for the right word as to the plan. What we want to do,
Allocations?
Allocations, things like that, so.
When do we schedule them to come back in before us?
It's up to us, really, when we
When
want
was
to
the
do
last
that.
time they were here?
He was here probably 5 months ago, 4 months ago.
Yeah.
The intention is, I think their intention is to, in servicing our account, is to come quarterly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
Yeah,
our.
we just got to schedule when we want.
Essentially what our contract says with
We
them.
should try to schedule them here to get so we can all ask.
I would think that we would want to do that either in November or December,
Makes sense.
so that we've got a good handle as we move forward in the new budget cycle. So Irene, could you just make note of that, please, that we need to get, our investment advisor in here, and we'll look for a time either on November or December.
Then we can talk about the OPEB too with them,
Yeah,
about that.
right.
I like the comment, inflation continues to remain well-behaved. Like inflation's
Yeah.
a person who can exhibit characteristics of
I
behavior.
noticed Social Security went up, 1.3? That's the preliminary indicator.
That's the new indicator, yeah.
Wow.
They
They said it
couldn't
was
give
gonna
a
be
final
low.
indicator because the
Government
government's slimmed down, of course, so.
They told us it wasn't gonna move.
Right.
So,
So, okay, all right, going to move on. Next item on our agenda is six-year capital plan. I specifically put discussion only in that because it wasn't my intent to go through and pick out certain projects and things like that, but more just to get a rough idea. Mary Ann, you had provided a spreadsheet.
This one,
I did have one question,
sure,
and that was down at the bottom under the source of funding,
yeah.
under the column fiscal year 2015. You have State of Connecticut school construction,
Should be pushed over
$3,555,000.
one, I'm sorry.
I actually believe it's the opposite. I believe it's
Is it
the
9760?
the cost of the project got pushed back 2 years instead of 1 year, so it should really align with
Yeah.
with that grant. It should be in the 15-year along with the tennis court replacement. Those two projects.
Right.
We're talking about cash flow when we will actually go out and bond? Is that what we're talking about here?
The sources of funding, you'll be looking at debt of 2.1 million, but that's gonna change that number.
So what is the?
Wait.
Yeah, I didn't
You
follow.
lost me.
Here.
You know what, don't look at the bottom, I'll send you out a new sheet, do not
Okay.
look at the bottom, that piece for the sources of funding. These are the items that I had for the budgets, and they moved that back out to 16, that was.
Okay, so that number really needs to be
That was a
pushed out.
determined, this
Also,
one
what we
here
have to do is if we bond these needed amounts, what does it do with the current debt service? Take current debt service, add the additional amount, then compared to our 7%, what does it put us at?
It'll put you at a higher rate.
Right, that's what we need to
Okay,
see.
but the current debt service, those numbers are what you would be paying next year, 6.166999.
Now, do we have approved projects that are unfunded still, right?
Correct.
And how much is that?
What's not
You
unfunded?
should just give us the ones that we approved in the past, unfunded.
Right, and the projects that, I think we caught up this last period, most of all the projects prior to 14, except for the schools, the Board of Ed network infrastructure project for 1.8 million, that's the only thing that's outstanding. We've done all
Let's make a
the,
list of ones that we haven't bonded for,
Yep.
so we just know what,
those are,
that's the whole picture.
and then these are the ones in 14
Okay.
that are bonded, some are bondable, some are not.
If you could make those changes,
Yeah,
Mary Ann.
we'll do it, I'll email them out to you.
Correct, and email them so that we have those.
So we shouldn't be looking at this
Yeah,
section.
we shouldn't really be looking at
These are
that
no,
bottom at all.
this has all the old stuff.
Is Board of Education current?
I don't understand things out there.
Burke, is the Board of Ed current? Because for
You're not
next
needing
year, it's
anything till
showing.
2016?
I did a roll forward for the Board of Ed at its last meeting, just dropping off the first year, and what we had submitted, haven't seen the final version from last year, was that the Henry James project and the Simsbury High School tennis courts were the next two up.
But that got pushed back.
Well, I don't know how
I'll have to go back and look
rectify
at the
that,
Board of
but
Ed.
what had been last recommended by the Board of Ed was, we had Henry James in 13-14, and it was recommended to be moved back, and it was to 14-15. That was at the very beginning of the process last year.
That was before the school safety measures, and nobody knew what that was. And that's why the Henry James project got pushed out to 16. All the other projects got pushed at that point.
Okay.
We don't have an
I'm not sure if that
updated,
was
we
the
don't have an
cash flow.
We don't have it
updated.
You know what I
updated,
mean?
no.
You're looking at an old
Okay.
document.
We're looking
Well,
at.
that's what I had asked for,
Yeah.
was the current 6-year capital
This is the
plan.
current 6-year capital plan,
This is the current,
yes.
okay. Okay.
Because nothing's been done at this point this year.
Right, I didn't think so. All I wanted was, what's the current,
Right.
just
I'll
for
give you a list
discussion
of the projects
purposes.
that are outstanding for bonding.
Okay.
And what's available for bonding, and,
And that's always the
all the
big
old
thing, is
projects-
what's available for the coming years.
And we usually have that conversation with the Board of Finance prior to setting the new priorities.
Right.
right.
Right. So all I wanted, I didn't want to see anything other than what's our current, what do we have, what's our debt?
Conversation next month or December?
we got to start it next month.
Next month?
Start the whole.
December would make sense because we have new boards taking office first week of December, so right after that would be appropriate.
We could still start the discussions as to what's going on and what are we looking at.
I'm just saying for the joint
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, because I want to, for the joint meeting, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
We'll push that off.
Yeah, you can do
But
it.
as far as the
Yeah,
debt
absolutely.
Yeah, we can do all
and what
this,
we are,
absolutely.
right. So, okay. All right. Next item on our agenda really is correspondence. The only item that I think falls into that, unless we amend the agenda, which we can, bring something up. Peter had something, and I think we've all seen this in one form or another, is what's been going on in Winstead, and the fact that what somebody had done with stealing $2 million and what that's doing to the school, so I'm going to turn it over to Peter, because you had some thoughts on that, and...
Well, I just copied this, and I mean, this just shows that bad things can happen. And, it's our job to hopefully make sure our system doesn't allow this. That's why I think when we did the agreed upon procedures, some of those might be outside the scope of the audit, so it's good to look at anytime people handle cash, because in this case, the gentleman that did this handled cash, and he took over a long time period, over $2 million in cash, so, because they didn't have proper controls on the cash. So I think it's timely that what we did is good to look. You never know. Not saying anything's wrong, but it's good to have good controls, take temptation away. Also, if you look in here, he overinflated his withholding for the W-2, and they made the town cough up another $184,000. He reported to the IRS, and they wanted to get the money, so he made the town pay that.
Peter, our current structure right now, without an audit or anything, we don't have that at all.
No.
Cash is handled by the tax collector.
Yeah.
A report is submitted to the finance department, who reconciles it against the
Right.
checking account balances. So we don't have that situation where all the cash is in one place.
Right.
And that's specifically what he was doing, everything.
Right.
And
Right.
the majority of our cash transactions is not handled in the finance department. They are taken in, they are deposited at the remote sites. Deposit slips are submitted to finance. So we have multiple people.
We just want to make sure the control environment's there to take temptation away, and
Right.
it's always good, and make sure that we're following the environment that we have. Because one thing they're going to do is, what is the control environment, and then do you follow it?
Right.
Because you could have it and not follow it, and you get the same bad result. So you got to make sure you follow what you have.
Right.
So, and if there's any recommendations, so it does happen in towns. That's why this one's sensationalism. There's more to the story than
But
just
that-
taking
that-
money.
You
that's-
read through this,
that's
and your
far
mouth
end of the
like just
spectrum.
drops.
But it happens.
That's just
It happens
unbelievable.
everywhere.
But-
It's not been,
But Peter raises a good point, and I've had a conversation with Bloom Shapiro. There's argument to be made that you need to do additional audits every so often. That's additional charge. That would be something that certainly the Board of Finance could look at.
Well, we already have, that's what
That's what
Peter's
we just-
Right,
recommendation
I'm
was.
saying,
and
so
what
when you
we're- what we're
talk
doing.
about this audit, you can see if there's any other reviews of internal procedures
I
that
thought,
we need
wasn't
to
there
do.
something for the Board of Education and Selectmen that they were in favor, that they
Yes, we
would look
approved.
you just,
favorably?
you all, they've both.
So we're doing those right
You
now.
are doing those, yes.
Both approved it,
We're
right?
moving forward with that.
Okay.
You're moving forward with that, and that's not.
The cash accounts.
Can I ask one question here? Do we have anything where people sign that they know of, that they haven't committed fraud or know of any fraud in the town? Do we have people make a statement?
We have to fill out
That's
paperwork
part of the
every
fraud
single year.
interview
We
that
did
the
it.
auditors
We all
I
get
know they do a fraud interview of a few key people, but does
Oh, no, they
does the
interview
town
all-
make everyone sign a statement to that impact, that effect?
We don't have a signature,
No.
but we do have to disclose it to the auditor. We all are interviewed.
I understand when they interview, but they only
Yeah.
pick a sample. I know what we do, but I'll give you some best practices from some of our clients that actually make their employees all sign a form.
Yeah,
It
that's,
wakes them up.
We have to
sign it with rules?
acknowledge,
Yeah.
in what we do in our company, what Peter's getting at, we have to acknowledge that we've read all the procedures, that if we see anything that goes on that's fraud, we will report it, so that we can't say, well, geez, I just remained silent, I didn't want to say anything,
Yeah, no.
And some firms are all moving in that direction, that they
Bloom
do
Shapiro
that.
hadn't recommended it to us, but it's something that they
Well,
would
it's
recommend.
like a best practice.
Yeah.
It's not, it's a good, what happens is, it's called the tone from the top. And I think with fraud, or just to get a good control environment, the tone from the top has to be that we care about this, we want good controls, and that any recommendation is important to us. So in this case, this town didn't, the auditors have been recommending deficiencies for years and they didn't do anything. So that's a problem. So the town, we have to make sure when we get recommendations that we respond and we take everything serious. That's what's called the tone from the top. So it gets down. If there is no tone from the top, things happen. So we have to make sure we do that.
If you notice, they were delivering the tax receipts to his house. When
Yeah, I know.
I saw that in the paper.
Tax receipts to
But
his
they-
house.
And they did say it when I was at the conference this past summer. They said the time you find somebody is when they take time off, extended periods of time, is when the fraud gets uncovered.
Well, that's-
Illness is a big one, or just vacation.
Well, that's why many companies require at least a 2-week break for some of their employees.
We do, we don't allow carry forward days like they used to. There used to be large chunks of carry forward days, and we don't allow that anymore.
Do we have a whistleblower process in place?
State statutes, not town ordinances, but the
I
state
mean,
statutes.
is there a process by which if somebody
There's a
sees...
state statute that applies
Okay.
Okay.
to protect.
Just one other item before we adjourn.
Sure.
Was a correspondence, I think, that had been sent around on the consolidation of non-educational services, that act, and the changes made there too. I don't know if that's something maybe for the November agenda we might want to talk about. I think we will have responsibility to accept or reject suggestions.
Yeah, that's, I would suggest that we put that,
This is
put that on your next
this
agenda.
is Public Act number 13-60.
Yes.
An act concerning consolidation of non-educational services.
Correct. That was a law that was passed that requires boards of ed to disclose all the non-educational costs, and then there could be recommendations to consolidate, and we've shared that with superintendent. And so the town and the Board of Ed it's a new law, we're trying to understand the effects, and hopefully we'll have that more information at your next meeting.
Right,
It's a very significant law,
saw
it does have huge implications, and it does involve the boards as well. So
Non-educational services did not appear to be defined in the statute.
I'm sure we'll get some.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it was specific, and some things were specifically vague.
But it's not disclosed right now, so I think it's designed to get at the things that can be regionalized, that can be consolidated, that can be shared, which we've done a good job doing. And so there are certainly more opportunities to share things, payroll, other things that are non-educational, so we'll have more to report.
Right, I read through that, and it was one of those things that I wanted to make sure that we got to as we went forward into the budget season, so, okay, all right. Irene, I will give you a copy of this, and you can add that in there, so. Okay, any other business to come before the board? Take a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done. Irene, if you have a moment before you leave, I just want to sign this and go over something. we did.
Interesting article thing, I've not seen that.
Read.
Yeah, really.
Can we send something to Kevin?
Because we haven't met.
Other post-employee benefits.
We met once since.
So it could be